Take your place in the Coaching Lounge. Be inspired by discussions with motivational guests, compelling speakers, key people of influence, and models of success. Learn unique processes, strategies, and tips that will transform your life. Tune into previous episodes on www.thecoachinglounge.co.uk. Like our page on Facebook via The Coaching Lounge. Follow us on Twitter @SatelliteCoach. Thank you for joining your host, Rebecca Gordon, in The Coaching Lounge. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now. I am in love. I'm having a relationship with my pizza. I must just declare that this isn't my quote. This is a quote from one of my favourite films, Eat, Love, Pray, written by Elizabeth Gilbert and starring Julia Roberts. Eat, Love, Pray gave me a chink of hope in a gloomy world of lost love. And in this world, long days and drawn-out nights provided enough time for me to become stuck in repeating the movie script of where things went wrong in the relationship. And if you're a woman like me, and if you're a woman over 40 like me, who has ever lamented the disappointment of a failed relationship, or a relationship that has all of a sudden shifted from awesome to awful in just a short space of time, know that you are not alone. And if you've ever been in this place, know that many of us have been there too. And in this place, we feel alone and we struggle to get to grips with the turn of events. You just can't fathom it sometimes. And, we tend to crucify ourselves. In this space, we brutally cross-examine ourselves in the trial of self-judgment that more often than not shatters our confidence. And it shatters our confidence to establish what could be a very beautiful and loving possible future relationship. So, as a woman over 40, in fact in my 50s now, who has experienced some highs and lows in relationships, I'm very eager and keen to delve into this topic with a specialist relationship coach. Ivona Gordon is a qualified personal performance coach and neuro-linguistic programming practitioner who joins me today in the Coaching Lounge to talk about the dynamics of relationships, especially for women over 40. Now, Ivona has coached both men and women on a wide range of life issues, but now she directs her time to working with women in this specialist field of coaching for women over 40. And when she does this, she focuses on building their confidence and helping women identify their strengths and qualities so that they're better positioned emotionally to find and create more satisfying future romantic relationships. Ivona, welcome to the Coaching Lounge. Are you sitting comfortably?
I am very comfortable. I'm on my beanbag.
Excellent.
So it's the best place to be.
Fantastic. Okay. Now, just to declare, actually, and we actually share the same surnames, and we had a chat about this, didn't we?
We didn't.
Yes.
We were drawn together because I saw your name, Rebecca Gordon. It's the same name as my daughter, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is very weird, and I needed to connect with you. So that was a few years back, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, and it was a great connection, which we then re-established at the Coachpreneur meetup in July, wasn't it?
It was.
Yes.
It was so brilliant to see you in person.
Yes. Likewise, yeah. And actually, we did have a very great connection from the initial conversation we had online and then meeting up. And we are just carrying it forward into this coaching space in the Coaching Lounge. And when I found that you were a relationship coach, I was very keen to find out more about it. But before we go into that, I just want you to tell me about your life before becoming a coach. What's your background?
My background really is in HR, human resources. I was a civil servant for many, many years. And over the last couple of years or so, I began to think about my life and kept looking out the window. I was still working, but I was looking out and I was thinking, there's a whole world out there waiting to be explored. And though I really enjoyed my time in the civil service, I knew that I had to do something else. I knew I was drawn to coaching. I've always been interested in coaching, and I suppose going it alone and setting up my own business. But based on my experience, and I have been an equality manager for a while, and working with a wide range of people and really understanding them, I just felt I could build on this as a coach. So it was very much to do with human relations, connecting up with people, managing people. So the last couple of years, I've gone it alone. I've had a job as a youth mentor in between coaching as well. And I feel I'm at the right place. This is where I'm supposed to be. Your introduction at the beginning, Rebecca, was about women over 40. And I think that it comes a time when you're at this stage, you review your life and you start to think, what do I want? What do I want personally? And I think that's what happened to me those years back.
Yes. Okay. So actually, it was a big shift. You stepped out of, being in a job, having that salary at the end of the month. It's security, isn't it? And you know what to expect each month when you do your work. But you took a risk to change all of that to live on purpose, which is very inspiring. So tell me about your work as a youth mentor. What sort of ages of young people do you work with?
Right. I've just completed a contract working for a lovely organisation, a national charity, who was contracted to provide a mentoring service in schools. So I could be in any part of London. And I hadn't dealt with youth work before, and it's quite a shift when you're dealing with adults and coaching, and suddenly we've got young people, and we're talking about youngsters from the age of, I suppose, 12, 13, right up to 18. But my focus really were on the year 10s, right? So the 15, 16-year-olds. So it's mentoring, but using a coaching approach to trying to get the individual to find the answers for themselves. And a lot of these young people, they had relationship issues. I mean, I remember having quite a long conversation with a young lady who was torn between her friends and being with this young man. So she's 12 years old, and there were still these confidence issues going on at a very young age. So some of it was to do with confidence, some of it was to do with behavioural issues. So it's working with them to try to get them to review how they've handled a certain situation. Right? So I use a lot of visualisation to try and get them to visualise how they can handle a negative situation, which could be having an argument with a teacher.
Right, that sounds brilliant, Ivona. And you've said actually from those young ages, there are some patterns that young people are in, which then naturally build and continue into adulthood in terms of relationships. So it is actually very good that you have the opportunity to work with people from that age in order to help them to identify and look at things a little bit differently, to rephrase or to write a new script of their life. So that's excellent. And so you decided to branch out, and then you now specialize in relationship coaching for women over 40. What made you settle on this niche in particular?
Okay, let me tell you a little bit of a story, and I'll try to be very brief. As a coach, we're always told you've got to find a niche, and I was kind of toying with very different ones, and I had a group of friends who came round, and they said to me, do career coaching, you're very good at supporting people at work on their new path of finding out what they need to do to get to the next stage. And I did that for a while, and I quite enjoyed that, but there seemed to be something that was missing, and that was the passion.
Right, okay.
Although I was good at it, it was the passion. And then I started connecting with myself in terms of relationships and where I was at as well, and being a woman of a certain age. And I was thinking, what is the block here for me? But while that was going on, I was listening to my friends, and a week would not go by without a friend moaning about something to do with their relationship,
Right.
moaning about the man they're with,
Yes, yes,
or
yes.
wondering when they're going to find that special person, and the whole stereotype about men, that there are no good men out there.
Yeah, we can become conditioned to those types of conversations.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think with that, I said, there seems to be a theme that's emerging, and some of it is confidence, lack of confidence in the individual, recognizing that they're responsible for whatever change they want to make in themselves in order to find the partner they really want. So
Okay.
I did a lot of digging around that subject matter. So it's a little bit of a story, and hopefully I haven't gone on too long.
No, 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 no. I mean, as you were saying that, I do recall myself, years back, and I'm going to use a word, entertaining those types of conversations. And then something, struck for me, and I actually thought to myself, well, this isn't healthy. I need to remove myself from that because it's not helping me in my relationship. So, yeah, I do recognize that. And I think it's good to say because, for anyone listening here today, then we do need to reflect what sorts of conversations do we have about men? Is it
Hmm.
actually healthy? Is
Hmm.
it helping us to move into a loving relationship that we want? Because there might be some a mismatch there, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there is this danger that women talk to women about male issues or the problems, issues they're having with men. And I don't know about you, Rebecca, when you're talking to your friends about men, women will give you the answer that you want from a female perspective. So
Yeah.
you're caught up in a cycle, and sometimes it's negative. So it's
Yes.
about understanding the male perspective, the male world, the way they
Right.
communicate. And that
Okay.
often is the block.
Okay, there's something I want to share with you about that, and it's about a conversation I had with a man actually about relationships, but I'm going to share that shortly. But
Hmm.
first of all, just leading off from what you've said about the differences with men and women. So, are men really from Mars and women from Venus? Do you think men and women have different approaches to being in relationships and cultivating relationships these days?
It's a communication issue. I mean, that's a statement which I do believe generally they are different, but we are all different. But it's quite interesting because, as I said, with women, we like to talk issues through, and men, if you approach them, they see the issue as a problem they need to solve. They don't really want to listen too long with all the feelings, and that can cause a major, major problem in any relationship where women want to talk and men just want to watch TV or whatever's on. And what is interesting, I had a lovely workshop on this. Are
Mm,
men really from Mars or women from Venus?
yes, that's why I
Okay,
asked you the question.
and it was so interesting. I put together all these different scenarios. We had men in one group, women in another, and their views were different, totally different. And it's respecting the male's world and men having to respect the women's world. So if you've got a really deep, meaningful conversation you want to have, do not disturb them at a certain time. You have to find the right time for that. And you have to listen to the language that they speak in order to engage with them and for them to engage with you. So there's something to be said about understanding men, understanding that sometimes they can, what can seem quite abrupt in their approach, solve a problem, that's it, but you want to talk about it.
Okay, and understanding is quite big, really. I mean, somebody I knew once said to me, "What's important for him is for me to understand him." And I
Mm,
must admit that I don't really think I really understood what he meant about understanding him at the time. You see, because it was just a statement that was made. But
mm,
really, understanding is something that's important, and it's to establish what that means for the other partner in the relationship. Yeah. So when I went to a meetup in London about 2 weeks ago now, and I was sharing with someone, it was a man who was from America but now living in the UK, about my experience of going to another meetup about relationships. And I was telling him, that this is what the speaker said, and, that a woman needs to think about this and think about that. And he said to me, well, look, women are under a lot of pressure, and women feel that they're under pressure so much so that they have to change who they are, when actually, when you are in a relationship, the most important thing is to be yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I thought, wow,
Absolutely.
isn't that lovely coming from a man?
Absolutely. He's obviously done his work. But the interesting thing, Rebecca, is sometimes we, and it could be men or women, do not understand themselves. They
Right.
don't know the true them.
Yes.
So you can see the challenges that we experience when we're getting involved in a relationship, and why sometimes it doesn't work. You may be understanding yourself along the path,
Right.
and it could be too late.
Yes, absolutely. So it's the work. It goes back to what you said earlier, actually. It's about taking responsibility to examine yourself and
Right.
do the work that has to be done. Okay, yeah, okay. So, just to share with the listeners, some time ago, I took up coaching sessions about relationship coaching, mainly because I wanted to ensure that my thinking and my perspectives about relationship after a difficult breakup were
Hmm.
actually healthy, rather than moving into that space of
Yeah.
negativity, because
Yeah.
it was a real dip for me. It was when I did the introduction, I talk about from awesome to awful in a short space of time.
Mm.
you
Hmm.
know I'm talking about
Wow.
me. And
That's deep.
I don't mind saying that, because again, we probably don't have enough conversations,
Yeah.
woman to woman on a healthy level,
Hmm.
or even woman to man,
Yeah.
about relationships. So I'm quite okay to share this with the
Yeah.
world. Yeah. But I knew that I had to work on some of the beliefs that kept going around in my mind, and
Hmm.
it was a real deep self-examination. But actually, from a negative perspective, oh, I should have seen this, I should have knew that,
Yeah.
I should have picked up on signs, or I should have done this. But as a relationship coach, I mean, for me, I went into coaching because it was about my belief patterns I wanted to shift and bring to a healthy state.
Yeah.
What are some of the issues that single people want to explore in
Hmm.
relationship coaching with you?
Well, the way I start very much from yourself, because your introduction was very clear. It's about confidence, about recognizing that you're okay. I mean, I go through the day, not all the time, and I don't say it all the time, I'm a good catch. I'm
Hmm.
a good catch. It's an
Okay.
affirmation. There's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
But like you, it's about examining yourself. I'm a relationship coach. It's not saying I'm perfect. It's not saying I know the ins and outs of relationships, because a day doesn't go by without me reading up on relationships and doing whatever qualification that I've got to develop my understanding. But reading is fine, but you have to practice what you preach.
Right.
And what,
Okay.
yeah,
So as you said there, it's about the self-examination.
absolutely. Because if you pick up a book and the writer or a blog, you read a blog and somebody will say, oh, you've got to know yourself, self-love, do this, do that, right? And it really depends where the individual is coming from, how deep they're hurting, what they've experienced, and no one person is the same, really. So the reading is fine, but you have to go a little bit deeper. And what I've done to understand what this self-love really is about is to go through a program myself, which has been unbelievable. So what it involves is really looking at your inner child, looking at this part within you that you've lost touch with, your true self, because we're confronted with all sorts outside and we get confused about who we are. So if you could cast your mind back to when I said I was a civil servant, sitting there wondering there's a world out there, I didn't know who I was. I did not know whether I was the job. Who was I? And it was only coming out I realised who I was, and I wanted to be a coach and all the qualities I've got. But I have done work on myself. I've looked at myself. I've gone through a 21-day program whereby I'm examining my inner child and knowing who the true me is. And the true me is, and I'm being open with you here, is this person. When I visualize the inner child, it was this person who was very smiley. I had a big ribbon, a yellow ribbon in my hair, and I was running up and down and plaits, and that kind of scene.
Yeah.
And that's the bit that I want to be, and that's the bit I'm a happy person. And it's building up a whole series of understanding yourself, writing love letters to yourself, all the things that you expect somebody else to do, you do it to yourself. And this is what this program was about.
Right, okay. I'm going to explore a little bit more about that in a short while, because we actually have some questions from some listeners who knew you were coming on, and I think some of the information there that you're sharing is going to be great to explore for those questions. But you are quite right to say that actually, even as a practitioner, a coaching practitioner, that we are our own first clients, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you had to be in that space so that you could understand and work with others who come to you. Yeah. And what do people come to you for? What are some of the issues that, I mean, for me, it was about my beliefs. What are some of the common issues that people, in your experience, have rung you up and said, actually, Ivona, I need relationship coaching?
Sometimes they come and they don't quite know what they want. I don't know if you get that, Rebecca. There's something that's unsettling in their lives, and it could be just looking at their life as a whole, first of all. And then honing in on a specific area once you recognise that that's the area that has the lowest satisfaction.
Right.
But the women over 40, they're at the stage whereby they've been maybe in a relationship for quite a long time, but it's not satisfying them. And they're wanting to know how to get out of it, or how to change the person. And we know that tends not to be possible.
Yes.
We can tinker, the word tinker around the edges.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, decisions have to be made.
Yes.
And they look for that person to enhance who they are. Without recognising that they need to do this for themselves. So it tends to be very much the long-term relationships and thinking, I don't really like this, or the point whereby my kids have all grown up, they've gone to uni and I've done really well in my career, but I want to find somebody. And it's really strange, isn't it? Find somebody that you meet them up the corner of the road and you're looking, I found you. And lasso them in, and there it is. But they've been out, you know what I mean? But they've been out the dating scene for a number of years, and it can be a little bit embarrassing
and scary, really.
Very scary. And you're over 40, and there's this thing about you can see all those what appears to be all these young, confident women, grabbing all the men. Why would somebody want you over 40? There's a whole range of issues there, Rebecca, that has to be explored.
It's tough, really. It's about a whole new set of relearning, really. Yes. But in the film Eat, Love, Pray, the main character, Liz, have you seen the film?
I haven't seen that, but I will have to see that. It sounds like a must.
I remember watching it. It was one of my down days, and I actually stayed in bed for much of a Saturday, which I like to do occasionally.
Why not?
And, watched the film on my iPad, and I remember after the film I felt uplifted. It was like there is hope. But the main character, Liz, she goes on a journey of self-discovery, and in this discovery she finds herself, and because of that she ends up meeting the love of her life. So as you've said, I'm just breaking it down a little bit, is that it's about working on yourself that will bring you everything that you want. And here's a quote from Julia Roberts. She says, "Balance is not letting anyone love you less than you love yourself."
Oh, God, that is so true.
It is, and this is what you've said. So I'm going to ask the next question, just going deeper into the self-exploration. what is the work? Because work on yourself is sort of like quite, it's a blanket statement. What would you say is the work that a woman might need to consider doing on herself when she's in that space, say in between relationships or wanting to attract the right, partner for her?
Right.
What might be some of the elements to the work?
What they need to do for themselves, self-love, is to find the inner child, which I said, and to put your hand on your heart and just think back what the true self is. And as I said with the example I've given, it's this happy person, this person that you want to be smiling a lot, right? So that's a simple exercise that you can do. But one of the most fundamental things to do is to erase all that you thought about in your old relationships. So what I'm picturing here is a blackboard. Maybe you want to write all these things down about all the negative things you had about yourself and relationships and just cross it out. Or if you're visual like me, you can imagine writing it on a blackboard and then getting that eraser and rubbing it out and starting afresh. Because what we've got here are a number of beliefs that are around, and we need to dispel the beliefs.
Yeah.
There's this belief that you're not worthy, that you won't find true love, you'll know true love when you see it. There's lots of myths that's going on. You need to park those. And another way really is to what you call neutralize your experience, and it's almost like taking yourself out of that emotional entanglement. Like I was trying to untangle my headphones on my phone, my mobile, and you could get all knotted up and it can be really irritating. It's trying to release that, let it go, right? So that you clear your mind of all that negativity, all the thoughts you thought about that person and about yourself, neutralize it. And what I mean by that is to say that there's opportunity now for something else. It wasn't working. We wanted different things. The circumstances was not right. You change it into a positive, but you detach yourself away from the emotion, right? Now, these things take time, and I'm not saying that an individual can work on that themselves, because I don't know about you, I have my dips. I go up and down, but if I'm accountable to somebody, I'm likely to follow these things through.
Well, this is the reason why, even being a coach for many years, I purposely sought out a relationship coach, because I knew I needed someone else there to make me accountable, and also who's got more expertise in that particular area. So, as you say, even though we might think we know when we read all the self-development books, actually we need someone objective outside of ourselves who's quite far removed but balanced enough to be able to help us walk through, that journey, that part of our journey.
Absolutely. It's hard to do this alone. And, as I was talking about the inner self and the outer self, we react to what's going on outside, and we need to be true to ourselves, and we can get very confused and influenced and hurt by what people say, which can confirm, and rightly so, that we're no good.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
And you've heard the baggage that we carry along. We need to empty those clothes, give them away, give them to the jumble. So whatever the visual representation is, you just really need to release that and let that go. And it's a step-by-step process. It's about knowing who you are and who am I? That is the question. Who am I? And what's important to me in life? And it can shift. If you had young kids, like my kids, they're all grown up, as you know, Rebecca. And in those early days, I brought my kids up myself. And my priority were my kids. So although I had relationships, in the back of my mind, I may have sabotaged them because I wanted to give all to my kids. And therefore, at the time, when you get to a certain age, over 40, you start looking at yourself and say, what is important to me now? In my life, my kids are grown up. What is important to me? And have that those life values down there. Be very clear what is important to you, because that will have an effect on who you attract or who attracts you. Because if they do not match up where you are at the moment, it may not end up as a healthy relationship, the relationship that you really want.
Okay. Lovely. Well, great information there, actually, and lovely to hear that analogy, which actually is perfect. We can become entangled in, previous relationships and the energy around that. So there's some energetic attachment. For me, the symbolic action that I took was that I wrote a letter. I remember sitting in a cafe one day having a cup of tea and thought, actually, I think I heard it somewhere. So I wrote a letter to my ex-husband and to a couple of previous partners, and this was just a letter of release, really.
Yes.
I didn't give it to them, but you see, that symbolic act was important for me to find a way to release and let go, and to say, actually, whatever I am responsible for in the breakdown of this relationship, I know that it's a 50-50 thing, so I apologize for that, and I accept that from your side of things, at that time when we were in this relationship, we did the best that we could at the time, and now I'm ready to move on. And yeah, that really helped me.
That's lovely.
Yeah, and just write it, bury it, burn it, but just to find a way to release, from that energetic attachment.
Yeah, I would suggest that as well. And you may even want to write several letters, because the letter when you're really hurting is a letter which reminds you not to go back there.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, there may be this voice saying, oh, what you're doing. And you've got to remember where you're at, what the advantages, if there were any, but what the disadvantages were being in that relationship.
Yes.
So it's the offloading. But it seems what you did, Rebecca, you went to that neutral state. Your letter was a very neutral letter, accepting what is.
Yes.
And I think that's beautiful.
Okay. So actually, we're going to come back on the other side of this brief announcement with some questions from some listeners and with some more tools and strategies from relationship coach Ivona Gordon. Stay tuned. We will be back on the other side.
Usually, we struggle through life alone with outdated beliefs and self-sabotaging actions that bring the same results. How different would it be if you had a personal success coach who helped you make the shift and create a plan for happiness? You will fearlessly align your values, achieve important goals, and reframe your perspective when you have coaching with me. Email Rebecca at info@satellitelifecoaching.com. Book your free discovery session and change your life.
My name is Rebecca Gordon, and I'm here with Ivona Gordon, relationship coach. And if you've heard this recording from the very start, you will know that we're not related. Our ex-husbands might be, but we met, some years back, and had a physical meeting at a Coachpreneur event in London. Now, Ivona, I'm running a 4-week self-exploration program, and in one of the we give ourselves tasks every week, and in one of those tasks, the idea was to go out and have conversations with different people. So very recently, I went to see the screening of the black film Looking for Love. Have you seen that?
I saw that.
Yeah, that was brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it's a documentary film by the award-winning Menelik Shabazz. And as you know, and just sharing with the listeners who may not have seen it yet, the film focuses on relationships in the Caribbean and African community. Now, I had some great conversations with many women some women in the audience about relationships and why they were there, etc. But what struck me was the demographics of the audience. It was very revealing. There were less than 10% men. And it seems to me that women tend to be much more proactive in self-improvement when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
Would you agree on that? And if you do, how can the balance be addressed?
It's an interesting area. It's an interesting topic, because with my meetup group, I have tried so hard to get men to come along to the workshops. It's almost as if I don't want to talk about emotions. And we've spoken before, women tend to empathize, so the emotions are important. Men follow systems, processing, fix it, right? So when it comes to emotions, they hold back, or they try to work things out themselves. It's that part of them that they're not as attuned to as we are as women. So it's not unusual. I went to a very big conference, I think it may be coming up to a year now, with I brought my daughter along. I mean, I'm not sure she wanted to be there. It was an all-day event on relationships with all these different speakers, and there were way over 100 people there. And then I looked around, and there may have been about 20 men, right?
Okay.
And this was a big event. So when it comes to emotions, men, they don't always get it. But I'm generalising. There are some men that do want to talk about emotions. As I said, it's hard to get them in. So we need to watch our language, how we can engage with them, and not use some of those, I suppose, feely languages.
Mm-hmm.
So if they think there's a system, they may decide to come along.
Right, but my thinking is that potentially this might be, I mean, this is a drastic term, a ticking bomb ready to go off, because actually, if we're not having enough dialogue, because we're not entering the spaces to have shared dialogue, in an open space, because there is this imbalance, you've said 100 women and about 20 men, and my experience of going to this film, then we're not communicating. And so how can we move from general communication as friends, or, just meeting generally, when we're not, and take that sort of like, blueprint into a relationship when we're not doing it just as general friends?
Well, I mean, with communication, it's not as simple as just looking at the emotions. I don't know if you've come across this book, Rebecca. It's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman.
Yes, I have.
So it may be a case of getting our partner or potential partner, if you're brave enough, to look at the questions in there and how they like to be communicated and how to show love. Yeah. Because as you know, there's the quality time, there's physical touch. People communicate in different ways and how they express love. So there are different layers within the whole communication with men and women. It's that there's the cultural differences as well. There's the learning differences, the processing. If somebody's dyslexic, you may need to break that down. So there's not just one thing that can affect a relationship or any relationship. We've got to try to understand that person. And it can take time. And one of the best things I would suggest is to speak to our really good friends, male friends. I've got a friend who's the co-organizer of my group. He comes along to all the meetings, and just to get some feedback on how best to engage men in topics of relationships.
That's brilliant. That's excellent.
I've got him to bring men along to my workshop to say it's okay. We're not going to be attacking you men, because there may be this perception that in a forum of lots of women that we're going to be attacking. So use what resources are there, and I use men as a resource to help us to get to understand other men, to help us understand the language and how we could tap into what they need and what they may need to change or tinker with to make it a healthy relationship.
That's lovely. So it's to establish how to tap into what the other prospective partner will need in the relationship.
Yes.
That's good. That's great. Thank you. Okay, so Ivona, what I'm going to do now is just ask you some questions which have come in from listeners. Okay, so the first question is from Miss J, and she asked this question. It's quite a bit of a long question, so here we go. When we set a goal subconsciously, we could be living up to a set expectation and not the goal. Okay, so let's just talk about the goal of wanting to meet, someone to attract the right partner. And what this could mean, she says, is that we don't always achieve what we want because we are so caught up on meeting a set expectation which precedes meeting the goal.
Right.
So her question is, how does someone go about changing their expectations about relationships, particularly if they feel that they have failed in the past?
Right, there's quite a lot there.
Yeah.
I mean, the way I've interpreted that question really is, the issue could be, I really want to find a good man, right? But your expectation is it's going to take a long time, and, it's going to end in tears. I've looked, I haven't found, I don't know how I'm going to get there.
Yeah, I suppose, yes, I agree with you.
Would you interpret it in that way, or how?
Yeah, I'd say that specifically, if I just give out a scenario, perhaps, okay, well, if I go and, I'm looking for a partner, looking for a love relationship, but, all men can't be trusted, for example, big general statement there, I don't know if I can trust that because I've been hurt in the past, or the expectation might be this man might do something similar to what I've experienced in the past. So the expectations that you might have could be, I want this person to devote all their time to me. I want them to go with me everywhere. I'm just going to the extremes there, because the goal might be I want to meet someone, but or subconsciously there are expectations that could be on the negative side, or high expectations that probably connect with values, maybe.
I wondered whether it was about values, and that it goes back knowing yourself, knowing your values, what's important to you. But it goes back even further than that. I mean, I've done a lot of work on why we choose the partners we choose, which is another workshop that I ran.
Okay.
And, sometimes we may have an idea of what we want, but what we get is something different, because it's right back down to our unconscious, what we're giving out, what we're actually giving out. And it could be unfinished work from the past, from our childhood, how we related to our family, how we saw your mum and dad getting on, whether it's good or bad. It could be that you do not value yourself because of the way you've been treated in the past by family, friends, whatever. So even though you may be giving out that, unconsciously you are attracting the opposite. But once you realise that, then you can put a stop to that. So there is some work that I would work with somebody on that, not too far back, because I'm not a counsellor.
Yeah.
It's almost to get the aha moment, to recognise, I understand now what's going on. And once you understand the pattern, then you can do something about it. So let's give a specific example. And I will share one of mine, which has been very sort of personal here. I'm not sure where this has come from, but I think it may have something to do with being a very shy person, shy child. My sister used to speak on my behalf when we used to go into a shop to buy some sweets. They'll say, what sweet do you want? Oh, same as hers, very quiet person, and not being noticed at all. So when I think back, and I've done exercises myself, the pattern that was emerging for me and the partners I got were those that I can fix, work on, so that they can thank me and say how wonderful you are, Ivona, you've sorted out this. And therefore I'm recognised, I'm there, I'm being seen, being listened to.
Okay, right.
So it's knowing what's gone in the past and saying, I don't want that anymore. right? I don't want to attract those that need me. I want to have more of a balanced relationship. So for your listener, there may be some talking about the past that needs to be dealt with, talking about the values, and being honest with herself that she can get what she really wants if she puts it out very clearly that she wants and she does the work towards it.
So essentially, it's about asking, well, what are my expectations,
Yeah.
labeling those,
Hmm.
and then making some decisions there, working with a coach to actually make the decisions on what's important about those expectations, and how you'd like them to be met, maybe, or what's important about them being met,
Yeah,
perhaps.
it's
Yeah.
exploring that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I do want to thank you so much for giving your own example,
Hmm.
because really I do think that sometimes, we want to protect ourselves, generally speaking, and we might not want to share things that can help someone else, to really feel actually, because I resonated with you there, in fact, when you were talking about your sister and, the dynamics there, and, it was quite emotional for me. And
Mm,
I don't know if I've really shared that,
right.
apart from with my children,
Yeah.
but thank you so much, because it helps, and it helps
Right.
someone else to say, actually, you know, um, this is a shared experience,
Mm,
and really it's about having dialogue with someone like a coach who can help me to work through this.
that's
Great,
right.
thank you. Okay, so this is a great question, Ivona, again,
Mm.
from a listener. And I'm interested in this question. So here it is. Is there a quick way of sussing someone out?
Sussing some. The way I've interpreted sussing someone out is this the person for me? Well,
Yeah.
okay.
Is this the one?
And is this one, or are they really dodgy? Shall I go somewhere else? Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, it's a yes or no answer, really, with that. But, if you say yes, right, you can be very direct and say, and come out with the questions you want. Are you ready for marriage? Very direct question, but
That's very
it
direct.
is very direct.
Hey,
There
but but
are,
but 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 you wouldn't ask that at the first meeting.
you would not, it's very, very dangerous to us
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I put on a little bit of a mask. I try to be true to myself, but how much you reveal to somebody can actually put them off. And there are about 5 stages you go through on the relationship side when you're building a relationship. You'll give a little, and until you trust them. It's all about trust. So the quick way of sussing them out, if you want to know if they're married material, is to, come out with a question. But there is a risk with that. But also, you go by first impressions. If you want to go by your gut reaction, in the first 6 seconds, you can look at somebody and say, "Oh, do I like them or not?" But that, in that way, that's tricky as well, because it really depends where you're at, how you're reacting to that person in that 6 seconds. If you're in a good mood, you're in a nice environment, you might warm to that person, and it's just the environment that is influencing the situation, not the person.
Right, I see.
And you can also I like to turn it on its head and say, would you like to be sussed out
Okay.
quickly? I wouldn't want to be. I
Yeah,
wouldn't be.
yeah, yes. But like you've said, I mean, actually, there can be instant rapport,
Yeah.
there can be good energy.
Mm,
And I think really it's about, if that's the case, it's to find ways to build on that
absolutely.
without even thinking, actually, I want a relationship with this person.
Yeah.
It's about friendship, that precedes getting into the entanglement, like you've described in the analogy of a relationship, because it is about an exchange of energy, isn't it? And when you are out of a relationship, there is still a link in some way with the energy, and it would be better for that link to be maintained as friends even
Mm,
after than than bad energy that's going to consume the person, so that they then go into future relationships with this caution and apprehension.
I mean, remember in the film they were talking about the friendship issues, knowing the person as a friend
Yeah.
first, knowing them, so you're building up that trust, you're feeling comfortable with that person, and you take it to the next level at the right time. But when we talk about relationships, sometimes we can feel this real heaviness. don't you?
Yeah.
Without just enjoying what's happening in that conversation. You know, when you go on dates, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
enjoy it, and then, you know, when the time is right and you think this is the person for me, and you've worked out that they seem to be mirroring to some extent what's important in your life, then you do what is right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So, yeah, this relationships are such a hot topic. We've got a few more questions from guests, and here's the next one, Ivona. What tools are there for feeling that you're worthy of a great relationship?
Right. I mean, I've mentioned some of those earlier, didn't I? But one of the things I say is I'm a good catch. I know I'm a good catch, but that's having worked on myself and being very much living and breathing relationships and reading them all up. But whenever I engage in a coaching session with somebody, not quite at the beginning, but in the early stages, is really just to get them to identify their strengths. What are they good at? And some people do struggle with that because it's one of those things, and I think as women, and I'm generalizing with some women, they find it difficult to be honest and say, I am good at this.
Or sorry to interject, but even if you've been in a toxic relationship and for a long time you've been told,
Yeah.
you're no good, you're always this or you're always that,
Yeah.
then we take on that label and we really absorb that belief that's come from outside of ourselves.
This is it, and that's getting back in touch with yourself. And even if you've been through a toxic relationship, you've come out, so there's something positive about that.
Yeah.
You can turn that round. I realise that I'm worthy of more and I'm out of that. That's a positive. Whatever experience you've got, you can turn that into a positive.
Yeah.
So I would work very much on trying to get them to identify what they're good at. You know, it could be just 5 things. It may be to do with the relationship, but even if it's not to do with the relationship, those strengths are the building blocks for maintaining a good relationship when you're getting in there, or actually identifying the person that you really want. So I start with, the Lego pieces. I like to visualize the yellow, the red, and building. The higher it becomes, the stronger you become. And if you don't recognize your strengths, how are you going to engage in loving somebody or getting into a relationship?
Absolutely. Because you want to enter it from a strong and from an equal level.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if they can't identify that from themselves, then I will get them to remember some of the positive things people have said about them. And I focus on positive. A lot of my things are on positivity. And if they haven't done that, then I, even in a very short time with a client, can pull out the positives for them. The fact that they've decided to change, that's a positive. Decided they want to take more of a grip over their life, that's a positive, right? So it's building them up, even if it's just 5 positives, they've listed that down, and then they have to look at those positive, and as the more you look and you read, it becomes way into your unconscious mind. It's about repetition.
Okay, great, lovely. Thank you for sharing that. I just want to share with the listeners something that helped me. And in the turmoil of, reflecting on what went wrong, if you like, I said to myself, well, what am I pleased with that in terms of my behaviour and my approach in the relationship? And some key things came out. I was pleased with the fact that I stood my ground,
Yeah.
and especially pleased with the fact that I didn't lose myself, So even realizing that actually I did great things in the relationship and I stood strong in it, and I'm still here today, even that was a great starting point for me, that I know are great things to take forward into another. So I do agree with you. It is about focusing on, the strengths of yourself and what you are doing well, what you are doing right. That we can very easily forget, because we do tend to beat ourselves up a lot of the times.
Absolutely, and it's congratulating yourself. Congratulating yourself. So thinking, oh, well, I've done well done. I mean, it doesn't mean like talking to yourself, but sometimes if you don't recognise it and you're waiting for somebody to say it to you, you may have a long wait. So, well, I think well done.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lovely. Okay. So, Ivona, I will need to invite you back for part 2 because there are more questions.
Wow.
But before we do leave, because we're coming up to the hour very rapidly now,
Oh.
there are 3 questions that I must ask, because these 3 questions are again from listeners who wanted to get your feedback on relationship issues. So the next question is actually from a listener from South Paraguay, and it's a man.
Okay.
And he's asked, when you find someone special and are just starting out to discover more and learn about each other, what are some important approaches to take?
Right, so you just discovered that there is an art of really listening to them, understanding what they like to do, how you show love to them, right? That real connection. In Gary Chapman's book on the 5 love languages, and he's talking about maximizing the language that they know, that you know in your own love language, but knowing your partner's one, knowing that and using that a lot more. And in his view, even when things are rocky, you can still work on an issue. He's very positive in his book. But it's about maintaining, keeping it going, communicating. There's this old myth that, when you're arguing, it's bad. Conflict's bad. It's not, unless it's a really bad relationship. If you're having a disagreement, that's good. You're communicating. You're listening to one another when it's at a very small stage, so you can do something about it. And not to go to bed, when you've had an argument as well.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. And so this question now is from Miss V. Another great question. How can you positively grow with a romantic relationship? Or is it more important to find and know yourself first? And she goes on to say, you can use the context of self-discovery as a lifetime process, which actually means potentially denying yourself a relationship for a long time because you think perhaps that you're not ready.
Right. Okay, so there's how long does it take before you discover yourself so you feel that you're ready?
Right.
That's one bit. And then there's the personal growth in a relationship.
Yes.
Yeah?
Okay.
So the self-discovery, it's a lifelong thing, really, because as I've said before, we're faced with some challenges outside. We walk out the door and there could be somebody that may challenge us, may bump into us, and it affects the way we are for that day, right? So life is never straightforward, and we have to know how we deal with our emotions and know what skills there is. So it's an ongoing. I wouldn't say I'll wait till I fully know myself and then I'll start a relationship, because that could be labelled a group of people who are scared. There's different types of relationships, and people that avoid it, they have excuses not to, and they could be preventing themselves from having a really good life. So when you feel strong enough, you start enjoying yourself. You do start going on the dates, just enjoying conversation, just enjoying life. That's what I recommend.
Okay.
Keep the work. The personal development is that okay for that question?
Absolutely, yes. Fantastic, thank you.
Personal development in a relationship. Now, for me, one of my values is personal development, right? So that's one of the key things I would expect from a partner, that they're not complacent and say, well, this is my life, this is it, I give up. I want them to be growing and learning things and exploring things about themselves, and sometimes coming out of their comfort zone. And it's one of those conversations that you have not right at the beginning, as it gets to perhaps, stage 2 or 3, when you're revealing a bit more, to find out how you together can grow in that relationship, how you can do things together, how you can support one another.
And that
Right?
in itself is a beautiful journey of
Yeah,
togetherness, isn't it? Where
absolutely.
the focus isn't so much on a relationship, but it's about us learning and growing together,
Yes.
which is, the great objective there.
Hmm.
Excellent. So I really do need to just squeeze in one more question. Are you okay for time, Ivona?
Yes, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, because this question, it's based on a discussion that I've had some time ago, and I think it needs to be asked really. So, for someone who finds themselves repeatedly experiencing the same toxic experiences in a
Mm,
relationship,
mhm.
what's the start to breaking the cycle?
Right. I mean, it's going back. As I said, I would, if I was working with that person, will be to get them to list all the negative qualities, I suppose, they've experienced in the past relationships, and see that these themes are emerging, right? Literally circle them and recognize that there is a pattern emerging and how best to stop that.
Hmm.
And it could be that they may need some other intervention, which may be counselling, to say that they are worthy of more than that. You are attracting that. For some reason, you're attracting that toxic relationship. And it could be unresolved issues from the past. You remember in the film that we saw,
Yes,
yeah,
looking for love. Yes,
Looking for love is
yes,
recognizing all that stuff, but knowing the past does not have to dictate the future or the now, which is what I tend to focus on, right?
yes. That's good. Yes.
And to recognize this has happened. I don't want it no more, right? I'm going to put out what I really, really want because I accept that I'm worthy of more. I
Absolutely.
am worthy,
Yeah.
and do that visualization, which is to scrub it out. It's gone, it's past, right? What I want is this, and you list down what you really, really want in that relationship, and have your list to hand, not in front of the person,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you might write it down, but in your mind, and notice when you are heading that path, when you're attracting
Yeah.
that toxic relationship again.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that. So, Ivona, you've mentioned your workshops, and I'd just like you to tell us more about the great workshop that you've got coming up in October.
Right, the workshop on the 10th of October is called To Flirt or Not to Flirt. So it's supposed to be a very light-hearted workshop, 2-hour workshop. It's really looking at engaging in conversation, really, communication. Um, Having something positive to say about yourself, to be listened to. But we know that when we like somebody, I'm generalizing, I know when I like somebody, that it's a very fun way of expressing and being in that flirtatious situation. But sometimes we need to know that we could be pushing it too far. So it's having a conversation on how you could be having this lovely conversation, but when you're flirting, it can be fun, but you can know how to rein it in if somebody is getting the wrong idea that you don't really want to go down that path.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to that one. There'll be
Yeah.
lots of little exercises, scenarios to work through, and hopefully there are a couple of men signed up for that,
Oh,
actually.
excellent.
I think there's more men than women at the moment.
Oh, brilliant. So, it's about the messages that we give out.
Right, yes.
Okay.
And the non-verbal, because as you know, I think 80% of communication is
Yes.
non-verbal,
Yeah.
and to be
Okay.
aware of that.
Great. So, actually, just to let people know that you are the organizer of what's the title of the meetup?
It's the London Relationship Coaching Meetup Group.
Okay. And I must say, I mean, I've been to some meetups in London, but it's not exclusively to Londoners, is it?
No,
Yeah.
anyone can join in, and what happens is that you have your 2 hours, and then we usually go to the bar next door to have something to eat, and they sell lovely Caribbean food,
Oh,
so you can
great.
just chill, have a
Yeah.
drink, and continue the conversation. So it's a real kind of social
Right.
afternoon.
Okay. I will certainly be coming to one of your workshops.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're finishing off now, Ivona, and just to share a great quote by Julia Roberts. True love doesn't come to you; it has to be inside of you. And
I love that.
this is very much the message
Yeah.
that you've shared with us throughout this interview. But I just want to ask you to share a final message for our listeners in the Coaching Lounge, please.
Right. Okay. What I would like you to do is just to think of an affirmation, a statement that you're going to work on today. And it could be something like, I am perfect in all I do. I am a unique being and worthy of love. And actually believe that in yourself. Keep doing, and if you can, just write down 4 or 5 positive things you have within you about yourself. Whether it's to do with a relationship or not, but your strengths, write that down and feel comfortable saying that, because true love is within you. It is you. That's what love is. If you don't understand what it's like to love yourself, it's difficult to really attract your true love.
That's a super message. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really important, and again, a great exercise. And you have a free giveaway for our listeners today, Ivona.
I have indeed. The giveaway today is a 30-minute discovery session, relationship coaching discovery session. So it's working out with you what are the blocks, what are the sort of issues that you would like to explore. So it's discovering that I'm trying to help you to, if you can imagine that wire,
yes,
take that wire out to see what it is that you would really need to work on to get you to the next stage in building your confidence and finding the partner you really would like.
Right.
So that's
great.
That's open to anyone listening in.
Yeah, and I just need to add on to that, if you don't mind, just to say, sometimes people approach me for coaching and they would like to have a session. And what I tend to say is actually, if it's a particular thing you want to work on, there has to be a consistent process. So, with a discovery session, you might identify some things. However, it's well worth engaging with the expert, the relationship coach, if you like, or the coach who can walk with you along a certain path of the journey to help you to stand strong. So that 30-minute discovery session would be a great starting place for anyone who wants to, find themselves and to get to a position where they're able to enter a new love relationship from a balanced perspective. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
How can listeners be in contact with you, Ivona?
Well, believe it or not, I love Twitter.
Okay.
So it's Ivona Coaching. You'll find me on Twitter.
Yes.
You'll find me on my Facebook. It's Ivona Gordon Coaching. But the best way to contact me is to drop me an email.
Right.
Which you can contact me on ivonagordon@gmail.com.
Excellent.
Or you can give me a call. And the telephone number is 07 958 558 689. Okay.
And just important to say, because this show goes out globally, I mean, it doesn't really matter where people are in the world, because you do Skype coaching or
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Skype's fine.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you think, actually, I really do need to make a connection with Ivona, then there are no limits. Please feel free to be in contact. And for myself, I would love for you, as listeners have done in the past, to give feedback on your thoughts about this show. We will be having Ivona back in the Coaching Lounge with us again. So if you'd like to ask our relationship expert some questions, please feel free to email me at info@satellitelifecoaching.com. There are links to the show on this page that you've come through to, so please do be in touch, share your thoughts, ask questions, because Ivona will be joining us again in a few months from now and telling us more about couples relationship coaching, and her new exciting project.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Ivona Gordon, thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate you.
And thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me on there. I really, really appreciate that. And I love the questions. Great questions coming through. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The Coaching Lounge. Is your life a predictable routine that's shifting you away from your purpose? Are you struggling to reclaim the true you that is being abandoned day by day? Join the Black woman's voyage of self-exploration and be free to express yourself without apology or restriction. In this creative space, expect to find clues to your purpose and passion. You will also receive tasks, worksheets, and participate in coaching activities. When you join this 4-week online coaching program, expect to leave every session knowing exactly what to do to improve your life. Spaces are limited for the next intake that starts on the first Sunday of the month. If you would like to be a part of this journey, then email Rebecca on info@satellitelifecoaching.com to claim your place for just £20.
Take your place in the Coaching Lounge. Be inspired by discussions with motivational guests, compelling speakers, key people of influence, and models of success. Learn unique processes, strategies, and tips that will transform your life. Tune into previous episodes on www.thecoachinglounge.co.uk. Like our page on Facebook via The Coaching Lounge. Follow us on Twitter @Satellite Coach. Thank you for joining your host, Rebecca Gordon, in The Coaching Lounge. Tune in, relax, engage, and transform your life now.